Hello and welcome to Camp Xtras. Pokémon is one of those franchises that has been on the top of pop culture forever. I remember being a kid and it was an obsession to so many, and it's still one for many today. I grew up with some of the games, but looking back, it's not the mainline games that intrigue me the most, it's the spin-offs. That's why today we're taking a look at Pokémon Pinball, Ruby, and Sapphire. I played through it recently, and let me tell you how it went and give you some history along the way. All footage was captured off of a Retron 5, and let's go ahead and hop into this one. Pokémon Pinball's developers Jupiter Corporation got their start all the way back in the early 90s, starting off with an Uno game, and after that they worked very closely with Nintendo, making Picross games, which they still do that to this day. Yet in 1996, Pokémon would hit the scene, and yet as we live in a post-Pokémon world, I don't think that series needs much explanation. A worldwide phenomenon in the early 90s and 2000s, the mainline RPG titles were not enough for the world. Pokemon was bound to get into every genre of game at this point. Well, Jupiter would get cracking on Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color, built off the foundations of the 1984 NES game Pinball. They would build up Pokemon Pinball for release in 1999. It was a game that had you working with a Pokeball and catching Pokemon on a pinball table. It would be reviewed well, but would sell extremely well, becoming the fastest selling Game Boy game ever, according to Nintendo at the time. It would soon become one of the best-selling games of 1999. Of course, this means a sequel had to be in the works, yet it would be a few years till its release. Unfortunately, there isn't a ton of information on the making of this game, but as we move on to the next Nintendo handheld, the Game Boy Advance, we can imagine they updated the engine and built something fresher. It actually would not be announced till its release year, 2003 at E3, where it would tout that it would have 200 Pokemon to catch and would add Rumble features if you played it on the Game Boy player for the GameCube. It was tied to the 5th anniversary of Pokemon's release in America, but would also be tied to the new Ruby and Sapphire mainline entries for the franchise. Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire would first release in Japan on August 1st, 2003, with America getting it on August 25th, and Europe and Australia would get it later that year. This is a very old copy I have here with a ripped sticker, but hey, with some of these games, you have what you have, and as long as it plays, I can enjoy it. I personally had never played this game before, but I like a good pinball game, so I've wanted to play it for a while. I played through it, and let me give you a review breaking it down, starting with the gameplay. When you load up Pokemon Pinball, you are given two tables to play on, one for Ruby and one for Sapphire. Both have their own unique quirks, but will feature the same gameplay style. In this game, you get 3 Pokeballs and you move them around with your paddles. Your minor goal for your current game is to get high scores by hitting objects and doing things on the table, yet your overall goal is to catch every Pokemon in the game, giving you multiple different goals to work on, but to be fair, the high scores are only a small part of the game, at least for me, as I was more interested in completing the Pokédex. This is where the game was most intriguing. First off, you need to hit a specific spot on the board, allowing you to enter the Catch-em mode. Then you must hit a bumper 3 times, and then the Pokemon will appear, and you hit the Pokemon 3 times to catch it. This seems like a lot of steps, and that's what this game is about. There are so many small mechanics for simple looking tables that makes it feel deceptively simplistic, but it really opens up to you. Getting your basic Pokemon is simple, but there is so much more to collect once you think about evolution. In order to evolve your Pokemon, you can only do this with the Pokemon you get in your run. You unlock the evolution mode by spinning around the board 3 times, then you pick a Pokemon to evolve, and you must get experience or stones that are hidden around the board to get a successful evolution. It's all done in a decent time limit, and this was the core of the game for me, as you get the hang of catching, but evolving before you lose all your lives can be daunting. Yet getting that evolution is so satisfying, making for a game you have to keep playing once a run starts, and when it ends, you want to restart for more. The Pokédex here really takes a pinball game, which is a genre that's really simple run-based scenarios where your progress is on one table with a set amount of lives, and generally you just get a high score. But now every run has a goal, which keeps it engaging to keep going, especially because you need to hit different sections of the table to travel to different regions for more Pokemon. And this is where the boards totally differ. It's in the small mechanics such as traveling, or how on one of them you simply enter the Pokemart by hitting the door, but there's another one where it's blocked by an electric field. There's also different Pokemon on each board and different styles of travel. It's enough to make both feel unique, but also similar enough to never throw you off. They're so well designed that, in fact, I don't have a favorite one here and liked both fairly equally. The physics are spot on too. The Pokeball travels around the table just as you would imagine. Hits feel solid and it never gets wonky. If I kept missing a target, it was my own fault for not hitting it right. A pinball game lives and dies on how good the paddles and the ball physics work, and here it all clicks to make something with an excellent flow to it. So with satisfying hits of each paddle, it makes everything work together, and seriously, it's a pinball game that in terms of feel does not have very many faults, which go along with the game's many bonus modes that work as boss battles, where you slam into enemies in order to catch them. These have specific game modes and mechanics that make them stand out amongst the rest of the playtime. I always thought these were a joy to get into. In terms of mechanics though, there is more, but I don't want to get too bogged down here, just highlighting some of my favorite bits. Yet the biggest thing here is that it's just plain fun to play. Both boards have fun things to do with a great feel. It elevates pinball play by connecting each playthrough to the Pokédex, and it makes catching and evolving something you want to do, making sure you live as long as possible so you can get every evolution, making for something that you stick to for long sessions, which, in my eyes, makes for a great portable experience. Pokémon Pinball is a very pretty game for the Game Boy Advance. All of the colors are very bright and pop off the screen. I think this era of Pokemon looks great, particularly the ones that appear on the table. They have a fun range of motion to them and they usually pop off the screen. The boards otherwise are fairly static and don't change a whole lot. I do think changing the blank background to whatever zone you travel to could have made each area feel unique and easier to call out when you travel, but that's more of something that I wanted to do, but what I do think it does is fine. The tables both offer a ton of personality and feel different when you move between them, which is perfect for a game like this. This matches the sounds of the pinball board, which should always have a constant buzzing of noise going around it. Here you hear clangs of hitting the sides of the boards along with the swinging of the flippers. It all comes together to make a satisfying set of noises and mix in the little noises of the Pokemon that pop in to make it feel like the Pokemon world. And the music also is really nice. It's very cutesy and settles into the background well, but the Pokédex music is my absolute favorite song in this game today. Overall, Pokémon Pinball captures great visuals and sound for the GBA. Pokémon Pinball is a standout for the Game Boy Advance and is one I was surprised by. I generally like pinball games, but there was something about this one that really grabbed me. Not only did it look great and unique, but it was just a great time. Each board offered a ton of entertainment, but catching all the Pokemon was quick, but evolving them was tough. I love a game I can pick away at, and this is one that has been so easy for me to pick up during free time, and then it was hard to put back down, making it an awesome, addictive experience. I have now reviewed 3 Game Boy Advance games here at Camp Xtras, and this one easily enters in at the number 1 spot. Far more replayable than the other 2, and it works better as an easy to play handheld experience. Crash was a fun platformer, but I haven't wanted to return to that one since I reviewed it, and Dexter was interesting, but once again not entirely replayable. According to Metacritic, Pokémon Pinball came out to generally favorable reviews with an 81 out of 100. IGN gave it an 8.8 out of 10, saying it was the best pinball game on the console and that Pokémon catching was addictive. GameSpot gave it a 7.3 out of 10, saying it was way too easy to hold your attention and would only work for serious fans of the genre. Nintendo Power would give it a skew of 4 to 5-star reviews. There was a ton of praise for this one, with many commenting that it felt like a huge step up for the pinball formula. According According to VG Charts, which is based on estimates, this game would sell well, reaching 1.3 million copies sold, which puts it at the top 40 highest selling games for the console. Yet even with that success, it would seem that the fate of the franchise would end there, as Pokémon Pinball would not continue on. There was a planned third DS entry that was to be developed by Fuse, but it was cancelled, which is sad because I feel the DS would have been perfect for a Pokémon Pinball game. Yet I do feel the legacy of this one still lives on, and hey, we even have a real-life Pokémon Pinball machine nowadays. I don't hover around a ton of Pokémon fandom spaces, but I have heard that people generally have a ton of nostalgia for this game. On Backlogged, over 5,000 people have claimed to have played it, and it holds a 3.5 average with a lot of good reviews, but this is where you come in. Let me know in the comments how you felt about Pokémon Pinball. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Everybody's opinion is important, so I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like, as it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more videos like this, and check out Camp Xbox, my main channel, where I cover Xbox games. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xtras.